My name is Peter Palermo. I'm the Executive Director of The Sheldon here in St. Louis, and I am delighted to have sitting with me members of Las Cafeteras from Los Angeles, California. They are in town with us to do a show on Saturday night at the Sheldon. But today we're talking to students and faculty at Washington University. We're grateful for Washington University to be a partner in this project that we have this year, our Whitaker World Music Series. East LA is a world music destination as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is.
So the band this morning played for about 100 kids here in the Sheldon. It was great, energetic performance. The kids were riveted. They had a ball. But you did an exercise that I liked, and it was just an exercise about the diversity of the world. And you said, I want you to tell me your full name. I want you to tell me where you were born, not just like what city, but like where you were born. All right, specifically. All right, and then where were your parents born? Okay.
Or whoever raised you.
Or whoever raised you.
Got adopted parents, or they got raised by grandparents. Right. And so those three questions, I think, if you want to know us, I think that's a good place to start. And I think I'd love to know that about you, because I don't know that about you.
I'm in. So why don't I start, since I'm the host and I'm the least interesting?
Yeah, age before beauty.
And then I'll hand it off, and then let's go down. We'll go down. Okay. All right. Okay. So I was born in Houston, Texas. Texas, but I don't remember anything about it. As a matter of fact, a Texan told me one time, like, just because the cat gave birth to kittens in the oven, it don't make them biscuits. So, which is a weird thing to say. But anyway, so I'm not really a Texan. Anyway, I'm a biscuit. No. And my parents were born in Kansas City, Missouri, and in Coronado, California.
All right.
Is that near San Diego?
Yeah, Coronado Island. Yeah, right off the Hotel Del. If anybody, I remember the Hotel Del Coronado. Anyway, now on to
me. Hi, I'm Denise. I'm from Southeast
Full
LA.
name.
Denise Carlos. My name was supposed to be Angelica. For some reason, it's not, and there's no story behind that. But Denise de Calaf is a Mexican singer, so I always tell my mom maybe she manifested it, because apparently there's no singers in my family. I'm from Southeast LA. I was born in Monterey Park, which is where ELAC, East LA College is. My mom is from Jalisco, Mexico. She's one of 11 kids. She's the oldest daughter of 11 kids. So she raised a lot of children before she had her own children. My father's from Baja California, Mexico. He was the first in his family to ever be born in a hospital. It was horse-drawn carriage that took him there and came through the fields, and something he's very proud of. But they're from Zacatecas, so my family's from Zacatecas and Jalisco. And that's it, right? That's all you want to know right now? There's so much more for me to share, but that's all I'm saying now.
All right, cool. Well, my name is Bruno. Just kidding. That's what
we don't talk about Bruno.
That's what my mom thought about naming me. But But then my dad said, no, I'm going to name him. So he named me Jose. Like the most common.
Is that his name?
The most, no, it is his name and his dad's name. He named me the most common Mexican name there could be. And actually my full name is, it's so biblical. Jose Guadalupe. Cano's my last name. And then my middle name is Cruz. The cross, you know? So they took it straight out of the Bible as much as they could. But anyways, I'm Jose Guadalupe Cano Cruz. I was born in Ventura, California, which is about an hour north of Los Angeles. I grew up in Oxnard, which is around the same area. My parents are both from the state of Jalisco. So, do you like tequila?
Sí.
Okay. Sí. So both my parents were born in ranches in the area where all the agave is grown in the state of Jalisco. It's called that area is called Los Altos de Jalisco.
And Oxnard's where my onions come from, right?
Oh, really? You know, I was in Panama years ago at some little store in Portobello. It was like this little small town, and it had a sack of onions, Oxnard, California. It was kind of, we grow a lot of
fresh produce, I see.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
And Oxnard's known for boxing, so they call it Boxnard too. So a lot of like boxers go to Oxnard to train. Over the last like 20 years, become like a boxing capital. And this fool knows more about boxing than anybody I know.
And about drumming. And he's a drummer.
But caveat is I don't know a lot of people, so you know. But if I want to talk boxing, I talk to this guy.
We all took turns getting black eyes when we were kids.
I want to do a podcast for Cano to do boxing because he won't start it, but I'll start it and he'll do it. Anyways,
Thank you.
my name is Hector Paul Flores. Even though my parents always call me Pablo. I was born in Santa Marta Hospital in East LA. It's no longer there. But when it was just a maternity ward. And now it's a high school, which is really dope. My mom is from Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico, from the Colonia Juárez in the Centro. And then my dad's from a little pueblo in northern Sonora called San Luis Rio Colorado. So it's where the Colorado River ends at the bottom tip. And I think that's it for right now.
Fun fact, which I've never told you before. So that hospital then became a general hospital, and my dad had a stroke when I was 17, and that's the hospital my dad, he survived, and so that's the hospital my dad was at, the one that you were born in.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You blessed it, apparently.
Okay, now real quick, Chinese zodiac sign, because I think we're coming up on the Chinese New Year. You ever look at the menu and you figure out where you
Yes.
are? Yeah? What is it? Do you remember?
What's the appropriate word? Rooster.
Rooster.
Or rooster.
Rooster.
Do you
Like,
remember?
it's like what year you were born, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the year of the monkey, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It would make a lot
That
of
makes sense.
In Spanish, soy perro,
So-
which sounds crazy, but I'm a dog. 1982, baby. Soy perro.
Woof, woof, homie.
Perro's a
That
dog,
also
baby.
makes sense.
We're learning so much about each other.
This is interesting,
It's
right?
getting-
So,
it's getting awkward. Yeah.
so talk a little bit about, if you could, talk a little bit about how the band was formed and why the band was formed. What were you trying to achieve? What did you want to do with this band?
You know, how we met is really, it sort of kind of sets the stage for everything else we did. Cano and Denise met in college. They were both part of an activist crew called Mecha. And so they're both organizers and activists. Cano was doing Zapatista-inspired work, went to Chiapas to learn about Zapatista philosophy, and Denise también was doing work. I met Cano at a protest at your college, Cal State LA. I didn't even go to that college. I just went because the Cal State systems were protesting against budget hikes. And he had a big drum.
And he had a big voice.
Yeah, and I had like a megaphone, a big ass voice. And then at the rally, he said, "Hey man, you got a big voice." And I'm like, "You got a big drum." And then he's like, "Hey man, I'm part of a radio collective on KPFK, which is a Pacifica network where they have Democracy Now!" But he was part of that, and they had a show called So Webber Radio. He's like, "Hey man, I like your energy. Why don't you join, our radio crew?" And so that's kind of how we met. And we
Activism and justice was at the heart
forefront
of it.
of all that stuff. The each one teach
That's
one
how we met.
philosophy, self-determination. We have everything we need in our neighborhoods in order to thrive and survive. And when we started learning music, it was at a community center. It wasn't even in school. There's one person who knew how to play son jarocho. Her name was Angelica Flores. She didn't even speak Spanish. She was a pocha like us. But she knew the songs. She knew the songs. And she taught us in a community center. And then once we would learn a song, then we would teach other people songs. And so you learn and then you shared. And that's how you know you learned something, when you can share it. And so that's kind of how we sort of like developed and evolved. And we were a student group of like 25, 30 people playing all the time.
And most of them were his tias and...
Yeah, a lot of them were my family members, my
Family
brother,
affair.
my aunts and all that. And little by little, we started getting asked to play. And we're like, well, we should have a set. We should actually have an intro.
Most of our music, we just would go out and protest because that's what we were doing anyway. We're going out and we realize people want to hear music and people will listen, right? And for us, it wasn't even that deep at the moment. We didn't plan to make this a career. The Eastside Cafe wasn't even like a legit center. It was just a space where everyone shared it. And Jose and myself are co-founders along with so many other people who really believe this idea of self-determination in our own neighborhoods. And so as just something that we would do outside of our classroom, and we just met so many people that really were invested in our communities, communities that are impoverished, or, we're so urban, and, we fit the description for your diversity, application. And we said, we didn't grow up playing music. I didn't, at least. And even my dance career started in high school with a volunteer teacher. And so for us to be able to utilize the music to create a world where many worlds fit, and this is, the Zapatistas, and the idea that we can create a world that we want to see.
Do you know who the Zapatistas are?
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit. So,
yeah,
just so folks don't know, Zapatistas is a group of indigenous folks from southern East Mexico, mostly in Chiapas, who basically did an uprising to basically demand their own land and didn't want any support from the government. So it was a group of indigenous folks who inspired the world to basically build sovereignty, for your communities. And we were very inspired by that. Many of us went to Chiapas many times to learn Zapatista principles, each one teach one. To lead, you must follow, and all those
horizontal
things.
leadership.
But you were taking your life in your own hands to go to Chiapas during that time, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody in life, life's a risk, carnal. And life is a risk. Anything you're gonna do, right? And so, and I think for us, that set the tone for the way we would work together, this collective mentality, this horizontal leadership. If you see our show, there's not really a lead singer, like this fool's singing, then I'm singing, then she's singing, then it's a lot of back and forth. And so when people say, hey, who's the lead singer? All of us, And so it's kind of it set the tone for now as professional musicians. We're rooted in that, so it's kind of like our ethos.
I think that's a good setup for one of the tunes that we're going to include in this video right now, and it's a tune written by Woody Guthrie, and he had kind of that same attitude about a troubadour, about a truth speaker, right? Anyway, can you talk to us a little bit about the song that we're gonna show right now?
Well, I don't remember exactly the conversation, the question, but I think somebody said, can you make sort of a protest song, but model it after some traditional song that everybody knows? And so, I think somehow we managed to imagine, this land is your land. That would be a cool song, but how do we play it in a style that's very relevant to us? So we picked a norteño style. And it was perfect for us because, we're a band, we're activist kids, that's how we came out. So we had the message, the song already had the message, we added a little bit more. And it's a high energy, party, beautiful song, which is also what we're about. So it had both of the good things that we're looking for. But a lot of the stuff that we talk about, because it's so close to our reality, is immigration, is a lot of our parents are first generation residents of the US. We're a lot of first generation American born of Mexican descent. So that song, it just made sense. So the lyrics talk about a lot of that stuff. And so that's This Land by Las Cafeteras.
I wanted to share a little bit. Oftentimes when we go to festivals, folk festivals, we're often the only Latinos, the only brown skin people performing in Spanish. And so it's really interesting to, when you're listed as representing Mexico. I wasn't born in Mexico. My parents are from there. My first language was Spanish, but it was very real in my household that I was not from there, and that I constantly had to prove my Mexicanness, right? And then it's this understanding in our own identity and experience as Mexican Americans, as Chicanas, Chicanos, as pochos, which was a derogatory term that adults would tell their kids, right? You're not Mexican enough. It's such a burden almost to always have to explain your experience. But I think with this song, it's why isn't our music considered American folk when we've been here for so many years and generations? And how do you utilize the same story, the same message to our experience and our families? But also, to me, I want to call the reimagination of Americanness. The reimagination of what it means to look Mexican, because we used to dress very differently. We used to want to fit the role, and almost, it was satire almost of this is how we prove how Mexican we are because we're dressed Mexican. And then we're you know what? I already am. I'm already authentic. I'm never going to be more, right? But it calls to I think, to ask, like, what do you have to, why do you have to prove yourself? And what do you have to look like? What do you have to sound like?
This morning I watched you perform for young people. We had a crowd of about 100 kids here, and you really reached them. You reached out to them, and that's not easy to do. That's a skill. And I could tell that you were high energy. You were good at it. You were into it. You came with it with your whole selves. What do you get out of performing for young people? What's important about that? Because you're good at it. So I'm assuming you've done it.
No, I hate young people.
Cut that out.
No, I'm actually a trained organizer. After college, I was a youth organizer for almost 10 years. And the way I was trained is I would get dropped in South LA, I would get dropped in Northeast LA, and they'd be like, all right, at the end of the month, you got to get 30 members to the meeting who want to do, community work. And you learn a lot going door to door, and nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody. And to be an organizer, the first thing you have to do, everything is about relationships. Everything. And so when you knock on the door and someone answers the door, they don't want to talk to you. So you have 15 seconds to let them know that you are a real person, that you're genuine, and that you're excited to talk to them, and that you really want them to come to be a part of making our communities better. And you got 15 seconds to be as real, to use young people language, real as fuck. And young people taught me that you can't BS your way around it. And I feel like when I work with young people, like they love to be, they love to feel alive. They love to be like given respect. They love when you believe in them. They might not always show it, but that's my experience in 10 years. If you believe in a young person, you push them, and like even if you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you. I believe you're gonna clap right now. I believe you're gonna sing, and I believe you can have a good time. And like, man, I change. And so that's what I do. I exemplify. If I'm having a good time here, I have to, you can have a good time out there. And so for me, that's what I bring to the table. I'm not the best singer. I'm not the best player. You know what I'm saying? But what I do well is I can make you believe that we can have a good time together.
Well, kids are amazing because they'll give you an instant read if you're doing it or if you're not doing
honest,
it, right?
It's kids.
Yeah.
It's young people. And it's funny because I'm really, really shy in front of young people. I just go, whoop, and I'm like, you do the talking. And I was a therapist and a social worker, so I'm like, how are you? How do you feel? Let's process. But I also was introverted as a young person, and so even though I wanted to, I could not express myself. I was too shy. And so there's always those kids also, but I think for him, he's just really sincere, and really open and honest, and you can't beat that. You can't beat honesty, and I think it's just so engaging.
Yeah, I'm actually really grateful for these two because I'm terrible at all that stuff. The kids walk all over me, I become their doormat. So yeah, it's great. I hold it down in the back. I do that stuff.
You talk to me anything technical? No, that's this dude right here.
Different strengths.
We're good. We're a really good team, man.
Yeah.
Because I can't do what he does. We wouldn't be able to learn how to do in-ears. He sort of set this whole, you can see all this machinery back here. He's a mechanical engineer. He put this together. And so we're a really great team to be able to go out into the world. And so again, use our skills that we've sort of developed and we're born with in order to create the world that we want to see. So when you come to our show, we want to create the world that we hope to see in the future. It's not here yet, but we can create the imagination, right?
Right.
And I'm like, you could sit next to somebody who you totally disagree with, but we both having a good time and feel like not everything has that sort of space. And I feel like, I didn't grow up as a musician or as a musical family, so I'm very grateful to be here. And I'm very loud and proud because, like the Buddha say, everything is temporary. Everything. And this may end tomorrow, and I know that every show, I'm going to give you 100. Yeah. No matter what, man. And even these fools tell me all the time, hey, you got to watch it. You might lose your voice. Maybe. But we might lose our lives to be TBH. It's a little deep, but I don't know how
Come
early it is
on,
right now.
girl,
But
no.
yeah, but it's real. It's like we put it all out there. We yell our asses off at this show, this spot. But we say 5 or 5,000.
Watch your mic.
Watch your mouth.
Everyone, watch your energy.
love
Let's
it.
process.
Watch it. Okay. Let's talk about the music for a second. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about, I'm going to butcher this. So, Son Yoroko?
Son?
Son Yoroko?
That sounds kind of Japanese.
Haro.
It does.
What is
yeah. The J. Remember, the J is like an H.
Yeah?
Yeah. And
Okay.
then
It's
CH.
not- okay, I was
And
saying
then
it
CH is like a CH.
Okay.
Haro.
Harocho.
There you go. Yeah.
Son Harocho.
Yes.
Yeah?
I've never
You
actually.
don't
never,
always have to roll the R's.
I don't. I like to roll the R's.
Me too.
though. I like
Yeah.
it.
I like it.
I actually never heard of that version. Was it Jaroko? That's kind of cool.
I think I said Yaroko. I think I said
Yaroko, yeah.
like it was a Y.
It sounds like a city in
yeah.
Japan, no? I went to
Like a
Yoroko,
Japanese
to
fusion.
Tokyo,
Yeah.
and then I went to like go get
Sanroko.
some kimchi.
Yeah, so Yaroko. Yeah.
But that's Korean. Everybody,
play
don't be
that.
racist.
I bought a
That's
Hello
Korean.
Kitty
No, that music
there,
too.
and
Everything's getting too crazy.
Sorry.
Okay, let's focus.
Let's talk about Son. Now I forgot it already.
Jarocho.
Jarocho.
Son Jarocho. Son Jarocho. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that music and what it is that speaks to you about that and why you tell me about your relationship.
It's Jarocho's. So I grew up playing music. I played like rock and norteño stuff like that. I wasn't. I didn't really come up through the Jarocho school. But what I did see about it was really cool is that it's first let me backtrack. It's music that's played in the southern Gulf Coast of Mexico in the state of Veracruz. And the one really beautiful thing about Jarocho music, it is very communal, it's very inviting, it's very participatory. You don't have to have a high skill level to participate. So it's actually not the primary manifestation of that music is around a box like this called the tarima, and people around it singing. There's some people singing lead, and you can make up a verse, and then if somebody else hears it, they can respond. So it's a call and response. You could be walking down the street, they're playing, you could kind of get in there, you wait for your turn, you sing your verse, somebody will respond to you. So you could play, songs, they'll play a song, the song go on for 30 minutes, an hour, like it can just keep going. You could play, you could go and walk away, the song keeps going. So I think what was so beautiful about Jarocho coming up in the United States is that many people were playing it, and maybe many people who normally wouldn't be in a band were able to participate. And I think that's a lot of the story of Las Cafeteras. There's other genres of music, not poking or attacking the music, but like mariachi. You have to be really good to be in a mariachi group. If you play Afro-Cuban music, man, you gotta know what you're doing.
You gotta
Yeah,
have some chops.
It's participatory as long as you could play really good. To the level that they're playing there. The really cool thing about Jarocho is that all skill levels can play in the group.
And there's many ways to participate. You can dance. Like if you don't sing, you could just dance on the tarima. If to learn on the jarana, if you learn 2 chords, you could sing 10 traditional songs with 2 chords. If you learn another chord, you could sing another 10 songs, right? So in that sense, I always felt like it's so punk rock. You learn 3 chords and let's start a band. It's and that's what it is. The dope thing about Jarocho is every verse is a poem, right? So there's and they're all about growing up in that area, that region, right? And I love Son Jarocho because it was unapologetically black. It was so proud to be a black music, a brown music, indigenous music. And there's many songs that paid homage to that. And that's not something you really hear as Mexicans growing up, even in Mexican music like mariachi, right? And so it was this Afro-Mexican music. And you could sing, you can dance, you could play, or you could do percussion. And what I loved about it is that the way that folk music stays alive is that because it morphs into something else everywhere it goes. So like hip-hop in Brazil is talking about Brazilian life.
Right.
Hip-hop in France is talking about, French way of living, And so when Jarocho came to us, we were singing these 400-year-old songs, but then we're like, yo, we're singing a song from 400 years ago? Who's going to remember that we existed 400 years from now? We got to write our own songs.
That's right.
So Jarocho taught us that our story is important. You gotta make a beat, but it was like we have to be storytellers too. We can't just sing other people's songs. We have our own stories. We got to do that, and that's kind of how we started writing our own jams.
There's a La Guacamaya. There's a song called La Guacamaya, traditional song, and a guacamaya is a macaw. Macaw. So like I forget who, somebody said this, like, man, what's a guacamaya? Oh, like I never seen a guacamaya in my life. So it's like, it's kind of like to Hector's point, we're singing about stuff that we've never even experienced in our life. So that's like the
They're like,
inspiration.
but we've seen a ghetto bird,
exactly.
being
That's
a helicopter.
our guacamaya. So making it relevant to
The
our
hood.
To you,
experience.
right? Yeah.
Hashtag the hood.
But I mean, that's what folk music is. I mean, and
Yes.
what you said earlier about how come my songs can't be American folk music?
I mean,
American.
it's a legacy.
It's beautiful, right? I mean,
of
that's
breaking the silence.
And I 100% agree. I mean, like last year, I guess I don't even know the pandemic. I don't remember if it was last year or 5 years ago. I can't remember. But
Everything was 2 years ago.
But we had Los Lobos here as part of our folk series, right? Because in my mind, they're going to come out and do an acoustic set. They're going to play folk music, right? And then they're going to do Purple Haze later on and let it rip. But anyway, to me, it's like exactly it's the music of the people, whoever those people are.
I saw an interview with Ani DeFranco, and they asked Ani, and she's known as the sort of like folky, but also,
Yeah.
she kind of went to the mainstream a little bit. But there's Ani DeFranco. Who do you feel is this folk artist that everybody should be listening to and who's up and coming? And Ani DeFranco said, Kendrick Lamar. And
Yes.
I was like,
yeah, it's brilliant.
I stood up and I started clapping because it's real. Like, we don't think about, when people say folk in the U.S., a lot of times they go straight to like white, sort of like a white sound, white music, maybe banjo. At least it was for me.
It's not Pete Seeger, right?
But folk
Overall.
is storytelling.
Yeah.
So if you're storytelling, then if you tell a story, I mean, you are playing a style of folk, and I feel like that's not what I was taught or was told. But like, I feel like if we're all storytellers.
But you're redefining the terms that have been used over and over
right.
to actually make sense for modern day United States, modern day American stories.
Yeah.
We're the new American sound, but we're not that new. We're just the generation that's going to speak up, right? And that's what I say. It's the legacy of breaking a silence. This music comes from, it's the African diaspora. It's people who were enslaved, people who were, their mouths were shut and they were killed and murdered. And we have the privilege to be able to utilize that as a teaching and as a seed to us telling our own stories. Because in a way, our parents who were immigrants, who were undocumented, also were, in the shadows, were hiding. And this is a privilege for us to come out and share stories because I'm not in danger. They're not in danger. We're able to still have honor and joy and pride in this pain and recreate it and reimagine what it could be.
There's so much pride in the work that you're doing. There's so much pride.
Yeah,
in that,
we're part of like the always changing new American folk sound.
Yeah.
Like us and all the bands, including Kendrick, including so many bands. We're all part of that. And I think that's kind of like the perspective shift that, like, I guess the greater population probably still doesn't relate to it that way. Yeah. But we definitely do. It's definitely something that we do.
What did you call this, Docs?
Oh, tarima.
Tarima?
Yeah.
So that's a good segue to think about our next song that we want to play, because the next one is Zapateado.
Yes.
Zapateado, Remember My Name. Yeah. Okay, so that one I think's got kind of a bass, and there's some dance music in that song, right? So maybe talk to us a little bit about that song, kind of set it up for us before we can cut to it.
Yeah, it's a Zapateado, and this is a mashup. It's actually, we haven't recorded it, but it's something we do live. And Zapateado, first, we start off with this song that's hundreds of years old, and it's stripped, so you're only going to hear the guitar and the donkey jabo, right? Because before we had microphones and speakers, we just had these instruments, these acoustic sounds. And then it morphs into an electronic jam that we started writing over tour. As we were touring and hearing the stories of people getting killed in the neighborhoods, from Philando Castile, to like, I remember we did a whole organizing around Trayvon Martin, the killing of him, and we started saying people's names at our shows. And so we said, how do we bring this into our set? Because we can't just be playing shows and not honoring people, not honoring what's going on. So this song is kind of something we created on the road. And, we're just starting to we haven't recorded, we just do it live, and we just kind of want to share with y'all a little bit of how we do it. But it's a way for us as artists, as BIPOC artists, we're trying to remember who we are. And to do that, you also have to remember the lives of others in the process. And so this is a song to remember those who have been taken away from us too soon. And so it's a powerful song for us to play live. It's not not joyful in that sense, but for us, it's really important that we play that song everywhere we go.
Also, I mean, we have to be expressive as allies of the Black movement, of Black lives. We play Afro-Mexican music. We aren't Black. We haven't had that experience. And so I think it's the least we can do is to remind ourselves and all the communities that we join in that, we also miss those lives that are gone. We are also allies to the Black community, and we're here to learn how to be better allies. And we're not advocates necessarily, but we're here to learn and listen how to be better as people from Mexican communities to be hand in hand with the movement. So, it's not just the party on stage, it's also the work that you do off stage.
That's great. Thank you. So let's hear the song. Zapateado, remember my name. The song was great. I didn't hear it, but I'm going to go back and listen to it as soon as we're done. And I know it was great.
Which song?
But so I want to make sure that you're getting a chance to say things that you want to say too. Yeah. So you were just starting in on something.
I think for us it's really important. We came up as organizers, activists, and doing environmental justice work, migrant rights work, LGBTQ and trans rights organizing work. Denise was the director of the Gender and Sexuality Center at Cal State LA for many years before this. And so for us, we are part of this generation that really sees like what Fred Hampton was doing in Chicago, building the Rainbow Coalition, right? Like we have an opportunity to do that. And so for us, we're Chicanos. Our parents, when they came here, were undocumented. So we know that experience, but it doesn't mean we're just for Latinos. Like, what I'm saying? We for Black lives. We stand on the front lines for queer and trans liberation. You know what I'm saying? Like we do our work around, the work around climate justice is hella important. And so for us, like we're an intersectional crew of good-looking, badass folks. And like, it ain't, and intersectional work doesn't have to be unsexy. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause we sexy AF. And I think but it also doesn't have to be boring. Right. It doesn't have to be sad or heavy. And so our work is actually to put a beat to the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like the movement has always had a soundtrack, and we hope to be on that album. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. And so for us, it's important that as we do this work, we're not here like my liberation is tied up to liberation of others. You know what I'm saying? And so like I ain't free if you ain't free.
Yeah, that's right.
And I ain't free because you ain't free.
And I love that you're bringing that message to St. Louis, right? St. Louis has to hear that too.
And I know St. Louis is a segregated town.
Yeah.
And LA is too. All the raza lives on the east side, Black and brown on the south side. Nobody goes to the west side. You know what I'm saying? So like I know St. Louis is a segregated town. And we have a shirt that says, Yo no creo en fronteras. It means we don't believe in borders. And we ain't talking about the border in Mexico and US. We're talking about the borders that exist in our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. The borders that exist in your mind will exist out there too. You know what I'm saying? And so like the borders that exist between Christians and Muslims, you know what I'm saying? Between the atheists and those who are faithful. Like there's borders in our neighborhoods. And so when we're talking about getting rid of borders, we're talking about these right here.
Yep, that's right.
And then once you start doing that, and the way you do that, here's a little quick tip on how you get rid of borders in your mind, right? Is
gender studies.
Is basically you start to tell your story. Because when you start to dig into your story, you're going to actually realize that your people migrated. You can actually realize that you indigenous to somewhere. It might not be here, but somewhere. Tell that story. And then when you're doing that, you're going to be less judgmental about other people's pain and beauty, right?
I 100% believe that. I think that's what performers do. They allow everybody in that audience to walk in your shoes, right? and whatever that is, and it can be very different from their life.
have nails
but
on the
while
bottom.
they're with you, they're going to walk in your shoes with you, and you can show them a new way to be. It's totally empathy building, right?
But it's not even about showing them how to be. It's just being able to just show up and show out fully as we are, like you said, in your full self, right? And it's funny because as I hear you about being an intersectional band and just intersectional folks in different layers and colors and flavors, like when I was growing up, my whole existence was based on like my parents not having papers, being undocumented, hiding, right? This is how I grew up, being silent, hiding out, never wanting to be seen. As I grew up, my identity showed up mostly as a woman, and it still does. I am first a woman in my experience, how the world approaches me. So when you ask, like, Bamba Rebelde, people have heard La Bamba in so many different variations. Los Lobos obviously made it so famous as well, with Richie Valens, the traditional Mexican style from Veracruz. But when we say La Bamba Rebelde, why is it rebellious? Because people like us speaking out becomes rebellious, right? When I went to college first, my dad was so proud, first generation, my sister and I. And one of the things I came back home to say, right? I come back home and I say, Apa, Father, I am a feminist. I was so excited. And he says, no! Why, mija? What's wrong with your life? You have a good life, right? And it's like, what caught my attention is like, what he said, why do you have to be so rebellious? Why are you so mad? Can you warm up my tortillas? But that's the thing, is that he was so used to seeing me as a woman in one way. And when I spoke of my experience, when I told my mom, hey, you don't always have to clean, you don't always have to cook, right? I had to understand, one, that was her queendom, and that was where she had power, which is good. But at the same time, someone like my father, hearing me talk the way I talk, hearing me or seeing me dress the way I dress, right? Of course I was afraid. The streets are scary for a woman. But he said, why do you have to be so rebellious?
I mean...
And this is what we have to do to make change. You have to rebel.
Men have a place of privilege, right?
Yes.
And the threat is that you're going to take something away, right? You're going to take that away. And
So we're just
there's going to
challenging.
be a challenge to that, right?
You have to
and that's
rebel
what you have to do.
against the
that's
mainstream.
You have to rebel. You
And that's
always
not a
will.
it's
So,
not a it's not a bad thing, it's not
Nope.
negative, it's not violent.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and this is our existence, right? You
Yeah.
have to challenge the mainstream narrative of the communities you come from, of the people you come from, and hopefully start a conversation with people who are different from you.
So it's a great setup for the song, but I want to make sure that we get any other last words in before we go to, because we're going to listen to La Bamba Rebelde.
Keep it sexy, baby.
And we're going to listen to that very song as we're for the wrap up here. But I want to make sure everybody's got a chance.
I mean, we're talking
to
to young
say
people,
anything
right?
else. You're talking to Washington University.
Washington, Tupac said the people are going to change the world are young folks. And I believe it's true. I remember and so that's you. That's not me anymore. I'm 39. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to have a mortgage. I'm trying to get health care. I got other things on my mind. But when we were 20,
You got one of these.
I got one of these. But when we were 20, 21, we left everything to save the world. We traveled everywhere. We didn't it was us. And now we've transitioned and into this form. And I feel we're still like arts organizers, but we ain't on the streets like we used to be because we got to create space for the next generation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When BLM popped off, we were there, but we were in our car, honky. Hey, you know what I'm saying? We hit the streets. But all the young people were on the, they were walking. You know what I'm saying? And so as young people are going to do that the way we did it. But we got to pull back. We got to create space for the next generation. And so this song, La Bamba Rebelde, was written when we were 21, 22 years old. So we're talking about, yo no creo en fronteras. We don't believe in borders. Yo no soy de la migra. I ain't part of Border Patrol. Yo no creo en la guerra. We don't believe in war. We were fearless in our lyrics. When we came out with this song, we're saying we're not with the Border Patrol. We ain't for war. People were like, whoa, in the song, because we didn't care. We weren't worried about funders. We weren't worried about TV. We were worried about is changing the world so that our families could feel safe. And now that's your job. And so this song right here, La Bamba Rebelde, is a song we wrote when we were fearless. And I'm not fearful, and I'm not saying I'm fearful now, but like it's your turn. And I wish you well on your journey, you know what I'm saying? And thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think the only other thing that without opening a can of worms, the only other thing that I think is important to note is that the only reason that this is possible, that Las Cafeteras is possible, is that we had to learn to become a business as well. We had to be able to make this art, take it seriously, take it to the next level. And we didn't really learn that in school. We didn't learn that through our families. We learned by doing. And I think for like young people who have a passion, who have a talent, who have an art, something that they really want to do to the next level, maybe kind of something kind of like along the lines that we did, it's really important to try to figure out how to get it out to people and be able to make it sustainable. You know, we're in our 40s. Most of us are in our 40s. We don't want to be sleeping on the floor anymore. You know, it's
Well,
like,
you did that.
Oh, we did
yeah.
it for a
You did
long
that,
time.
and you had to be okay with
We-
it, right?
Set
Yes.
bathtubs,
You know,
hallways.
I did it
I
too.
remember a homeboy
Yeah.
put together two stools and fell asleep like this. Remember Jason did that?
Yeah, that was a hard work. Yeah, it was
Now
terrible.
he has scoliosis.
But
It was terrible. But it was, yeah. You know, being 20-something is hard work.
But we
man.
were
It's-
down.
you know,
We
At
loved
the moment,
it.
at the
Right,
time, we were
right.
like, yeah.
It was exactly
Now
right.
We loved
I'm-
it.
I think I'm married.
But now you've got
and she's
people,
like, yeah, you're not doing that no more.
you've got people counting on you now
Yeah,
in a way
it's
you
part-
didn't.
No,
when
I'm
you were
like, I'm a
21,
lady. I'm gonna be in a hotel with a kitchenette.
Yeah, so we've come a long way,
Yeah.
and we learn by doing. We all have, like, I think for people who are in a collective, in a group, like, man, use the skill set that is within your collective. Like, we all have different skill sets, and we complement each other. That's what makes this possible. And you can't see it a lot of the time. It's sometimes it seems impossible, but you have to find the way. You have to stick to it. Stay true to the art. Stay true to yourself. And you know, it can blossom. It is possible. Like for us, it was you know, if we rewind 15 years ago when we were starting, as Dee said, we never imagined this. It probably would have happened sooner if we would have, you know. But nonetheless, we're here. As we traveled, we started to believe in ourselves more. That, man, this could really happen. I know one of our old bandmates said, man, I want to go really far with this band. And then when he said that, I was like, man, we ain't gonna go far. We're a local band. We play coffee shops, you know. But he had that vision, and I never forgot that because he was right, you know.
And now you're going to play Jazz Fest in New Orleans this year.
New Orleans Jazz.
We've been waiting.
Congratulations.
We've been waiting a long time to play Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
And it was really in the festival scene. We got one opportunity at Kate Wolf. Shout out to Kate Wolf Fest in California. This is their last year. But that was our first festival, and we rocked. We rocked that stage so hard. Word got around, and we started getting invited. And that was, what, 8 years ago? And it was in the festival scene. And so we love festivals because they're, you know, we're the best band you never heard of. And we're going to give you a run for your money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, like, our albums are cute, but our shows are fire. You know? And so we're excited to go to New Orleans, you know, to play the Jazz Fest. And, you know, Newport, we coming for you.
We're doing it.
Hector, Jose, Denise, Las Cafeteras, thank you so much. We're going to play out to, now if you happen to be catching this before Saturday night at 8 p.m., you can catch the live show at the Sheldon Saturday night, 8 p.m. here, Saturday, January 29th, part of our Whitaker World Music Series. Thank you, Whitaker Foundation, for your support. I can't think of anything else I'm supposed to say, so let's go right into the song.
Se habla español. See you Saturday.